I never thought that I would believe in Bigfoot. Growing up in Oregon, the stories were everywhere. Gas station postcards with hairy beasts, late night radio talk shows, and the occasional blurry photo taped up in bait shops. I always chalked it up to folklore, something people used to spice up campfire conversations. That changed last fall. It was early October, and the air was just starting to carry that deep pine scent, mixed with the chill of the season. My buddy Kyle and I had planned a weekend hike and camp in the Cascades, far off the main trails. We were looking for solitude and trout, not monsters. By the second night, we had set up camp near a small, glassy lake. No cell signal, and no other signs of people for miles. As we settled in, something strange started happening. First, it was the silence. You don't realize how alive the woods are until they go completely still. No owls and no insects, just this vacuum of sound. Then came the knocks, loud, hollow thuds echoing from deep in the trees. 3 knocks, spaced perfectly apart. We figured it was some weird echo or maybe a branch falling, until it happened again and again, always in 3. Kyle tried to joke it off. Maybe some weird woodpeckers got a thing for rhythm, but I could see that he too was rattled. Around midnight, as we sat by the fire, we heard something moving. Slow, heavy steps. Whatever it wasn't a deer. It had weight to it, like a person, or something bigger. We killed the fire and sat frozen, listening. Then we saw it. About 30 feet from the edge of the camp, a massive figure stood half hidden behind a tree. 7, maybe 8 feet tall, covered in dark, matted hair. Its shoulders were impossibly broad, and its eyes, glowed faintly in the firelight we had just put out. It didn't make a sound. It just stood there, watching. Kyle whispered to me, "Do not run." We backed into the tent and zipped it shut like that was gonna help. The thing circled us, slow, deliberate. We could hear it breathing, deep and slow, like a bear, but somehow more calculated. Then, just like that, it was gone. No sound of it leaving, no cracking branches, nothing. The silence returned. We didn't sleep. At first light, we packed everything and hiked out without eating. When we made it back to the truck, we found 3 deep scratches across the tailgate. Long and parallel, too wide to be from any animal I've ever seen. We never reported it. Who would believe us? But I haven't gone camping since. And when I close my eyes at night, sometimes I still hear the knocking. 3 hollow thuds, echoing in the silence. They say that the Appalachians are ancient, older than bones, older than memory. The kind of place where time doesn't always move forward, and things that should be myths still breathe in the shadows. I used to laugh at Bigfoot stories. Not anymore. It started when my cousin Levi went missing. We're from a small town in West Virginia where everybody knows everybody and bad news travels fast. Levi was a woodsman, born into these hills. He could read moss like a map and track a deer through pouring rain. When he didn't return after a solo hike in the back country, we knew something was wrong. The sheriff organized a 2-day search party, but after finding only Levi's crushed backpack and a single boot by an uprooted tree, they called it off. Bear attack, they said. But that tree wasn't broken by a bear. It had been ripped from the ground, and the roots were twisted like corkscrews. I couldn't let it go. I took a week off from work, packed my gear, and I went looking for answers. The fog rolled in thick by midday, swallowing the trees and dulling all sound. I had Levi's last known GPS coordinates, way off trail, deep in an area the locals call Dead Man's Hollow. Not exactly a name you would want on your itinerary. By dusk, I reached a ridge overlooking a valley choked with mist. I set up camp by a crooked pine and built a small fire. That's when I heard it. Not an animal, not a person. A scream, deep and long. It echoed from the valley, followed by silence so absolute that it rang in my ears. Then came the knocks. 3 sharp, deliberate thuds. Tree on tree. I stayed up all night, shotgun in hand, fire roaring. At dawn, I hiked into the hollow. The trees grew strange here, thicker, twisted like they'd been through storms that never made it to the forecast. I started finding signs. Massive footprints in the mud. Toes. No shoe. Each print was almost twice the size of my boot. I followed them until they vanished into a grove of dense evergreens. And that's when I found the carcasses. Deer, raccoons, even a black bear, all torn open like they'd been dissected. No scavenger damage, just missing organs. And the cuts were precise, clean. This wasn't a predator. It was something else. That night, I didn't build a fire, just curled in my tent, trying not to breathe too loud. Around midnight, I heard it walking through camp, slow, heavy, and breathing like a bull. Then it brushed the tent. The silhouette it cast was monstrous, tall as a van, arms down to its knees. I didn't move. I barely blinked. After what felt like hours, it wandered off. Again, I didn't sleep. I planned to hike out on the 3rd day, but the trail was gone. Not overgrown, gone. The trees had changed. Landmarks moved. I was turned around, and no matter which direction I went, I was lost. Every path looped back into the hollow. Around noon, I found something unnatural. A perfect circle of broken trees. Trunks snapped and laid outward like something exploded at the center. In the middle was a pile of bones, animal bones mostly. But I saw something else. A piece of Levi's flannel shirt, stained with blood. That night, I built no fire, just sat in the dark with my shotgun, back to a rock wall. And then I heard it breathing behind me. It was in the trees, watching. And the knocking became again, 3 times. Then a scream that was so close it shattered my ears. I fired blindly into the night and ran, leaving my pack, my gear, everything. The fourth day, I don't remember sleeping. I just remember running. At some point, I fell and hit my head and woke up at dusk. The fog was worse now, heavy, almost oily, like it carried something with it. And then I saw it. Not a glimpse. The full thing. It stepped out of the fog like it owned the forest. 8 feet tall, covered in black hair. Muscles like ropes under its skin. Its face was wrong. Not quite ape, not quite human. Its eyes glowed faintly, yellow-green, and they locked onto mine. It didn't roar. It didn't charge. It just stared. Then it grinned. I swear to God, it grinned. Lips pulling back slowly to reveal cracked yellow teeth, like a man who had forgotten how to smile. I backed away. It followed. That night was a blur of running, hiding, and praying. But it was always near, never rushing, just stalking, like it was playing. Day 5, I don't remember escaping. I just woke up at the ranger station, covered in mud and blood, with cracked ribs and half-frozen fingers. They said I must have gotten lost and hallucinated most of it. But I know what I saw. My cousin's still gone, and in the mud on my boots, they found hair samples. Thick, coarse, and unlike anything in any database. I haven't been back to the woods since. Sometimes when I'm walking past the tree line near my house, I hear the knocking. Just 3 thuds, distinct, almost mocking me in the distance. I think it followed me home. There were 4 of us. Me, my girlfriend, and 2 of our friends. We were all college seniors looking to disconnect before our last semester started. Chris found the perfect spot, a secluded clearing near the base of a mountain in Washington. No cell reception, no people, just trees, a lake, and quiet. We arrived late Friday afternoon, hiked 2 miles in with our gear, and pitched camp by a small stream. The place was beautiful. Sunlight filtered through massive Douglas firs. The air smelled like pine and clean earth, and for a while, everything felt peaceful. We sat around the fire drinking and swapping ghost stories. Typical camp vibes. Around midnight, Chris and I went to gather more firewood while the girls stayed behind. That's when we heard the whistle. High-pitched, slow. It came from deep in the trees, maybe 50 yards off. We froze and looked at each other. Wind, Chris said. But I could tell he didn't believe it. Then it came again. Not wind, not birds, a person, whistling, 5 slow notes. We called out, "Hello?" No answer, just the whistle again, from a different direction. We booked it back to camp. The 2 girls hadn't heard anything, but both said they felt weird, like someone was watching them. We stayed up late, joking to hide how creeped out we were. Eventually, we zipped our tents and tried to sleep. But that's when the knocking started. Something was hitting a tree. Then it would be silent, and then it would happen again. So we didn't sleep much. The next morning, we joked about it being a bear or an elk. Chris brought up Bigfoot, but we all brushed it off. We went hiking along the stream, trying to shake the tension. But that's when we found prints, massive barefoot impressions in the mud. Toes were visible and at least 18 inches long in the foot, and they were spaced far apart, as if something huge was moving fast. They led down into a thicket and disappeared. We kept telling ourselves it had to be some kind of prank or erosion pattern, anything that was logical. That night, nobody wanted to admit they were scared, but the fire was bigger and the laughter more forced. Then, just after 2 a.m., we heard something walking through the woods around our tents. Not a deer, not a raccoon. These were heavy footsteps that were deliberate, and they were circling us. Chris unzipped his tent and flashed his light. Nothing. Then one of the girls screamed. She saw something between the trees, something tall. She swore it was watching her, just standing there. When we all looked, it was gone. We woke up the next morning to a horrible smell, like rotting meat mixed with wet dog and sulfur. The fire pit had been disturbed. Around it, though, were small stacked stones, arranged in crude little towers. None of us had done it, and we hadn't seen any other people since arriving. At this point, we just wanted to leave. We packed quickly, but Chris convinced us to stay one more night. We're all just being paranoid, he said. But I wish we had left then. The final night was the worst. We didn't light a fire. We just sat in the dark, backs to the tents, and we were just listening. Then we heard a whistle, a knock, and then footsteps. One of the girls whispered that she saw eyes in the trees, glowing amber in the darkness. Then something began mimicking us. At first, it sounded like Chris, but Chris was right next to me. Then it mimicked one of the girls. Her voice saying something that sounded like my name over and over again. I grabbed my shotgun from my pack. Chris had a flare. We were all ready to bolt. And then we saw it. Across the stream, standing between two trees, at least 8 feet tall, covered in dark hair, shoulders like a linebacker, and arms nearly to its knees. Its face was wrong, too flat, too human, but off. Its eyes didn't shine from our lights. They glowed from within. Its breath steamed in the cold air as it stared at us. Then it let out a deep, wet snort, stepped back into the woods, and disappeared. We didn't sleep. We just waited for daylight. We hiked out as fast as we could. We didn't stop to eat. We didn't talk. We just moved. Once we reached the car, we looked back at the tree line, and there, maybe 100 yards back, it stood again, watching. We drove like hell back to town. When we reported it, the ranger nodded slowly and said, "You're not the first, but they don't ever generally get that close."